Hello, and welcome to the Franchise Life. I am your host, Stacie Shannon. Today, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and instead of really highlighting a specific brand, we're going to focus on the value of a franchise system. So with me today, I have Brian Wieters, who is the Group Vice President of Franchise Development at Neighborly. Neighborly is the world's largest home services company with 32 home service franchise brands underneath its umbrella. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Stacie. Good to be here.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to visit Neighborly in Dallas a couple weeks ago, and I walked away just really in awe of the level of support that you provide your franchise owners. So one thing, and I did hear it just this week from somebody, is let's say a painting company. Well, I can go out and I can start a painting company on my own. Why do I need to invest in a franchise? So that's really, as our discussion continues, I want to really dive in and use that as an example of how you can propel a new business owner to greater heights right off the bat. But before that, can you just share what makes Neighborly unique?
Sure. So obviously, like you said, we're the largest home services franchisor in the world, right? We actually reached that level several years ago, about 4 years ago now, and continue to be the largest. But what makes us a little bit different is, we've been doing it for a long time. So that didn't happen overnight, right? So Neighborly, originally the Dwyer Group, was our original name of our company, has been around since 1981. And so we've been building this brand and this group of brands for a long time now, right? We've accelerated it over the last few years, but it's been a long time in the making, which gives us lots of ability to bring in people from a support standpoint that other brands just don't have access to, right? Our size and scope allows us to go after the top talent in whatever support area it is that we're trying to enhance for our franchisees, whether that's marketing or that is vendor relations, or that is, we have a whole data science team that dives into customer data to help our franchisees know how to use that data to attract and retain customers. Those are all the types of things that Neighborly as a company is able to do because of our size, right? That we have 32 brands, we have 19 brands in North America, another 13 brands in the UK and Europe. And then we also are able to support those brands from an infrastructure that's kind of based in Texas, but really we're spread out. We have offices now all over the world that allow us to do that. So if you take a painting company, in your example, yes, you can start a painting company on your own. Anybody can, right? Now, whether you want to actually be the painter or not, that's a whole nother issue. But if you want to start a painting company and grow it to do more than just what you yourself can do and what one crew can do, then the franchise model gives you all of those other support areas, all those things that you aren't an expert at, right? So typically, those of us, we've had careers and we're experts typically a certain field, whether that's accounting or that's marketing or that's legal or that's finance, whatever it may be, but we don't have expertise in all these other areas. And that's where a franchise company or a franchise brand, they bring all those experts to bear to help you in your business in the areas that you're not an expert, right? So that you don't have to make those mistakes that cost money and time, right? I think I've heard franchisees put it best is that, yes, you're right. I have a franchise painting company and you're an independent painting company, but you know what? I got to the same revenue. It took you 5 years to get to the revenue it took me a year to get to, right?
That,
Because of all the support I had. Right?
yeah, that's a great example. So we're using the painting scenario. So Neighborly owns a brand called Five Star Painting. And your team shared that, a really big value added service is you have a internal system called Pro TradeNet. And Pro TradeNet encompasses a lot of different support systems. But one of those is vendor relations. So in the painting company, vendor relations with companies like Sherwin-Williams or what have you. And as a result of those relationships at a corporate level, and the buying power that your franchisees have across the system,
Right.
they get the benefit of rebates at the end
Mhm.
of the year. So can you just share that example of the rebate and those vendor relationships and really what that means to a new franchise owner?
Sure. So ProTradeNet is our vendor relations management company that we own, right? We started ProTradeNet back in, gosh, the mid 90s. So we've had it for a long time. They vet every one of our vendors, right? We now have thousands of vendors that work within ProTradeNet. All of our franchisees have access to those vendors then, and the discounts that we've negotiated, right? And those are vendors from, it's everything from marketing to recruiting to insurance to payroll to accounting. You name it, there's a vendor for it through ProTradeNet, and it allows our franchisees to have access to the best pricing because again we're 5,000 franchisees strong, so we have a lot of buying power. One of the things for small business owners with us that really helps is it allows them to have access to group insurance, right? To have a group insurance plan if they want one, which most franchisors don't have the ability to offer that. But again, we can through ProTradeNet. It gives them not only discounts, but rebates that we've negotiated as well. So as an example, so this last year, so in 2022, our franchisees enjoyed a little over $100 million in discounts, right? So 104 million exactly were the discounts that our franchisees received from our ProTradeNet vendors. And on top of that, we rebated back to our franchisees $8.5 million. So we wrote checks back to franchisees for $8.5 million in 2022. And some brands, actually, we have franchisees in some brands who their rebate check from ProTradeNet completely offsets their royalties for the year. It's just crazy to think what they're able to do because, again, one, having the intentionality to put that whole company together when we did, because we weren't nearly as big when we started ProTradeNet as we are today, but having the foresight that the Dwyers had when they put the ProTradeNet company in place, knowing that, hey, as we grew, this could be a huge plus for our franchisees, keeping their expenses and costs down so that their profitability is higher, while at the same time providing us access to the ability to, hey, this is an attractive thing as to why I would start a 5-star painting versus another painting brand, right? Because other companies don't have ProTradeNet. They don't have the size and scope that we do, or the time. And again, it goes back to that, how long we've been doing things. It's not like we started ProTradeNet last year. It's been around for 20 plus years. And so that's another piece that comes into play is that we're not new to this game. We know exactly what's going on. We know how to help our franchisees not only grow revenue, which is always a goal, but to grow revenue profitably. And that's a key differentiator among franchisors. Lots of franchisors can grow revenue, right? That's just something that you put a good marketing team and a marketing plan in place, you can grow revenue. However, you need to be able to grow revenue profitably, right? So that your franchisees continue to make higher and higher profits on that revenue. And that's something that ProTradeNet allows us to do along with some other things that we do. But ProTradeNet definitely allows us because of those discounts and our cost of goods that our franchisees can have it stays very, very low.
Brian, you've made a couple excellent points, and I just want to take a moment to just kind of recap and highlight because so you mentioned that Neighborly has 5,000 franchisees across its system, but how many employees at Neighborly are supporting those franchisees and building the Neighborly system?
Right. Now we have about 1,600 associates that work for Neighborly, spread across multiple offices. Like I said, our two big offices, main offices, are in Waco, Texas, where we started back in 1981, and then in Las Colinas, the Dallas area of the airport, is where we have HQ, what we call HQ2, that we opened up about 2 years ago now. That we opened that office. So those 1,600 employees are supporting franchisees across the system. And kind of where I see it the most from a standpoint of, hey, this is just a different level of support that we're able to give. If we look at marketing, that's a good place to start, right? From a marketing standpoint, within Neighborly. So you have all of your brand marketing teams. So every brand, whether it's AirServe or Mr. Electric or Real Property Management or Housemaster, they all have their brand teams, their brand marketing teams that are working for their franchisees, typically on local marketing, at the local marketing level. But then in addition to all those brand marketing teams that are working, we then have a Neighborly level marketing team that's about 150, 160 people strong, that's working then at the Neighborly level marketing for all brands, right? So supporting all of those brand marketing teams in another way, right? And what that allows us to do, because we have all this neighborly level marketing going on, where we put Neighborly out there as a customer facing brand over all of our brands, it allows our brand marketing teams to enjoy all of the advantages that this huge marketing effort behind it gives them, right? So there's a couple of things. One is hiring, right? So when Neighborly needs somebody to handle our Google pay-per-click ads, right? We hire people directly from Google to do that because our size allows us to. Same goes for our social media campaigns. We go hire people from Meta to come work for us, to understand the inner workings of those companies that we're going to utilize for advertising. And then in the real world, kind of what that looks like for a franchisee. So say you're a brand new owner of Five Star Painting, opens up in a market, right? You're the newest painting company in the market. So you got to start advertising, you start generating online interest. We all use, obviously, Google Ads and Google Search when we're looking for a new service provider. I need my house painted. I don't have a painter that I use regularly. I'm going to go online, I'm going to look, right? And so typically, whatever pops up on the first page, those are the companies I'm going to call. I don't, very rarely does a customer go beyond the first page of a search. Some people will scroll down below the sponsored ads and look at the ones that are actually organically popping up because they figure those are a little bit more popular. And what we're able to do, because of that whole neighborly level side of things versus the brand marketing by itself, we're able to get a new franchisee on that first page, typically within 60 to 90 days of opening. We'll get them on that first page of the organic search. That's virtually impossible for somebody to do on their own. If they just open up their own painting company, that wouldn't happen. You couldn't create enough traffic, enough volume to get on there that fast. It would take you at least a year, if not longer. And that's if you're really concentrating on it. But even other brands, other franchise brands, a lot of times we're able to do it much faster because of our size. Again, because of that level of marketing that's going on at the neighborly level, in addition to everything that's going on at the brand level. So that's just one example of how that neighborly piece brings value to each of our brands, regardless of what industry they're in, which vertical they're in.
That is phenomenal. And you're right. I mean, I've owned a couple businesses and outside of the franchise industry, and it's almost impossible to get that level of visibility without the power of a corporation like Neighborly. So, just going back again, is many of your brands are owner operator, meaning you are looking for individuals that are going to dedicate themselves to that business full time. That's not to say, and going back to the Five Star Painting, you don't want that owner to be out doing the painting physically themselves, but you want them focused on growing and building the business. So, a lot of people experience, especially if they're in the corporate world and they want to transition to owning their own business, they do experience fear of a lot of those benefits that they're going to be losing, right? Mm-hmm. And namely group health insurance, medical, dental, 401k. And again, I'm going to say, all franchise brands are not created equal. Neither are franchise development organizations. Right. But Neighborly really has set itself apart because you are one of less than a handful of brands or companies that I know in the franchise industry that offer 401k, health insurance, dental, and so forth. Why is that important as a Neighborly brand to offer that and differentiate yourself in that way?
Well, like you said, it's a key driver in people's decision on whether they're going to get into business for themselves or not, right? Most of our franchisees are first-time business owners, not all, but most. So they're coming out of the corporate world, out of a corporate career, where they're used to having that group health insurance. It's just been there, right? It's just how our society works today when it comes to group health plans. They're not used to going and finding and sourcing their own health plans, right? That's just not something they've ever had to do. And so we knew at Neighborly, hey, if we have a way of doing this, and it's not easy, frankly, the way that things are set up in the United States for health insurance and health plans doesn't make it easy for a small business owner to get health insurance, frankly. And for a franchisor to offer it, or to be able to offer it as an advantage for franchisees, that it's not easy to do that either because of lots of different laws that get in the way. However, through Pro Trade Net, because we have this separate vendor relations management company, that's where the group health plan can be offered. in a way that's advantageous and cost effective for the franchisee, right? So it's a group health plan that's not all that different than what they're already getting right now with most companies, right? About the same kind of coverage, same kind of rates, that kind of thing. They can offer it to their employees if they choose to. That's up to them. They don't have to, but it definitely gives them access, because we knew that, hey, that's something that we can offer and put together to take care of our owners, make sure that they have that security, right? So, because let's face it, there's a lot of spouses that may not be involved in the business that are going to be concerned. Hey, wait a minute, you're leaving your corporate job. There's lots of things that means. There's lots of different places that plays in our lives, and it's not just the income, right? It's more than that. I remember when my wife and I, we were going through a marriage class early on in our marriage. We probably had less than 10 years we've been married, going through this class, and the person leading the class talked about how one of the spouses, typically the female, but not always, has an extra gland that the husband doesn't have, and that's the security gland, right? And it goes off anytime the husband does something stupid, right, or is thinking something stupid in their mind. That's when the security gland goes off. And so anything we can do as a franchisor to alleviate that unease, right, of whoever, whichever of the couple or the spouse is not really supportive, or is questioning, or is worried, what can we do to alleviate that worry? Right? What can we do to reduce the risk? Because that's all what franchising. Franchising is all about reducing risk when it comes to getting into business. And so this was just one other way that we're able to do that, by having these plans in place for medical, dental, vision, 401k, and offering that to the franchisees that want to take advantage of it.
I have a son that will be 30 this summer, and he is somebody that could thrive in the franchise system, but he's no longer qualifies to be on our insurance. Right. He's on his own. He works for a company, has a retirement plan, has his medical and dental health insurance. But, for him to make that leap, that's always been a barrier. So now I'm looking at Neighborly brand, which is best fit for him.
Right.
Okay. So another concern that many people considering franchise investment have fear of is staffing. Sure. So we haven't touched on that. How does Neighborly assist its franchise owners with recruitment and staffing?
Yeah, so that's another actually vendor that we have through ProTradeNet that we use. So across our system, it changes on a regular basis. So right now we currently use a vendor called Paradox for our recruiting efforts. So what that allows our franchisees to do is they have access to Paradox at a deeply discounted rate, again, because of the discounts that we're able to do through ProTradeNet and because of our volume buying. So franchisees, and actually right now, since we just introduced Paradox as our new vendor, most of our brands, not all, but most of our brands for new franchisees, it's free for the first year to use Paradox. And then after the first year, like I said, it's a deeply discounted monthly rate. What that did for us when we changed from kind of using a kind of an ad hoc vendor situation that we were using on the recruiting side for our franchisees, we jumped from getting, on average across our brands, just in the U.S. So I'm just talking U.S. numbers right now, getting about 20 to 25,000 applications a month that would come into our system on job listings. And so now we've doubled that. So we're about 47,000 a month is what we get across our brands, helping franchisees recruit the right people, right? So it's not just getting those applications in. We're actually using a system that allows franchisees to get those people to show up for an interview. Anybody that owns a small business today knows it's one thing to get an application to get people to apply. It's a whole other thing to get them to actually show up for an interview, even if it's a virtual interview, because it's just the labor market is what everybody says it is. It's tough. But we've been able to use Paradox as a vendor to help our franchisees to recruit for all positions, whether that is a technician or that is a manager, and everything in between. That's what we use them for. And we've had quite a bit of success with it. Our franchisees typically are in a pretty good shape when it comes to recruiting in that regard. The other thing I would say that we really, really tout here at Neighborly, and I've done this throughout my career, regardless of brands that I've been with, what I find is the best recruiting tool for any franchisee is to create a culture, create an environment at their small business that people want to be a part of, right? Frankly, that's the key to recruiting is if I create a culture and an environment in my business that people want to be a part of, that employees enjoy working here and enjoy what they do, then they'll bring me more employees without me having to go recruit people. And so when I'm talking to franchisees all the time, I tell them it's really, really important that you as an owner early on in your business, as early as possible, make sure you've got a mission and a vision for your business, right? And that you use that mission and vision and you talk about it with your employees, you have them buy into it and use it, frankly, to hire and fire, right? If somebody doesn't fit your mission or vision, then shouldn't be a part of your team, right? Don't be scared to move on from that employee because if they're not a fit, it's not going to work out anyway long term, and it's going to affect you being able to recruit more, right? So, and I found that franchisees are able to do that. Typically, don't have huge recruiting problems. They can find labor. Because again, their employees enjoy working for them enough that they bring more people like them to them.
That is such a powerful statement. And, many times I bring culture up when a candidate that I'm working with is nervous about the staffing industry and be able to find employees, because I agree 100% with you, Brian, that culture really is much bigger than any individual on the team. And recently, just in the past couple of weeks, I had another brand on here, a founder, and he made the comment that if he didn't define the culture for his brand, the brand would define the culture. And you don't want that. You want to drive, the purpose and so forth. And people will rally around a good leader and want to be involved in a good culture. So very, very good advice there. So on the last note, one other big takeaway when I visited Neighborly Brands in your team was the power of collaboration and cross-marketing between the brands in a given territory. So can you share a little bit more on what Neighborly's vision is and how you facilitate that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have what we call the Neighborly Hub, right? So we've launched the hub now nationwide, and it's the ability or being more intentional in cross marketing among brands within a market, right? Within a territory or an area, right? So I live in Dallas. So I'll use Dallas Fort Worth as an example, the Metroplex, right? So we have all of our brands in DFW, which in our case, we have all but one of our brands represented in the DFW market. So 18 brands are here. We now are able to gather our brands together, our franchisees. They work together from a marketing standpoint and decide how they want to market together. They share customer data back and forth, right? So we realized, and we tested this for about 3 years. So we started the test in 2019, and then we just rolled it out this year to the whole country. We did it in 5 markets from 2019 until this last year. And we found in those markets that when we were intentional about marketing as a group, right? So not marketing as Mr. Handyman or Mr. Appliance or AirServe, but marketing as Neighborly with all of those opportunities and all of those services available in a marketplace. We saw a few things happen. One, we saw that the average ticket, the average cost per job or the average revenue per job went up across all the brands when we did that. We also found that a multi-brand customer, so a customer that uses more than one Neighborly brand, right, spends more, right, and they will use us more often if they know that the brands are all attached to each other versus being standalone, right? So we found that. And then the other thing, in all 5 of those markets, the same store sales, so meaning the existing unit revenue, went up at a higher rate than the rest of the country. So our other markets that weren't part of that test. Right. So all of those things were positive, obviously. And we kind of knew that going in, that we thought this would be the case, but we just had never really proven it. Now we have. Now it's a full-on program. We have a whole separate division within our marketing team at the Neighborly level that handles the hub. And the hub is everything from, different graphics on the vans, right, for all of our franchisees. So it ties Neighborly and the brand together on that through shared marketing materials, whether that's TV, radio, billboards, print media, all of those things are tied together. That's all part of the Neighborly Hub, right, that our franchisees are able to take advantage of, in addition to getting together and then sharing that data. So the other piece of that is our data science team as part of the hub too, right? So we have a whole data science department at Neighborly. And really what they're tasked with doing is really diving deep into customer data, because we have over 12 million customers in our database. And so we dive into that data to understand buying patterns of our customers. And then how do I use those buying patterns to help a franchisee increase revenue, right, at the local level? So what our data science team is able to provide all of our hub markets as they start getting together is, hey, you know what, Mr. Rooter franchisees, as an example, we know the data tells us that if a customer used Mr. Electric, they had an electrical repair or something that had to get done, the most likely service they need next, based on the data that we have, is that they're going to need a plumber next, right? And usually within 6 months. So, Mr. Rooter franchisee, you should be marketing to all the Mr. Electric customers in your market because of this data and what it tells us. That's information, again, that Neighborly is able to provide to a franchisee that other companies just can't. They just don't have the ability to yet. And again, it comes with size and scope and all those things that help us. But that's what our team is able to do and what they're sharing at the hub level. And we're just getting that. We're just scratching the surface with it. It's just getting off the ground across the country. And franchisees are very excited about it. A few of them are a little bit hesitant because, they love their brand, and we all, every brand's very loyal to each other. But they also see, hey, there's a whole lot else out here. Is it better to have my 2, 3 Mr. Appliance trucks out on the road, right, all by themselves? Or is it better to have, I've got now 30 Neighborly trucks with Neighborly and another brand out on the road that are advertising Neighborly? That's a huge difference. So those are the things that we're trying to do now to really take revenue to a whole other level in a market, and really just the ability to work together much more intentionally.
The power of Neighborly is incredible. And it's, to hear you say you're just scratching the surface after having 32 franchise brands under your umbrella and already have built up these amazing systems, the Pro Trade Net, the Hub Marketing, Paradox, etc. It's exciting. So, okay, I said on the last note, but I always think of something else. So on a last note, what would your advice be to a individual that very much wants to go into business for themselves through franchise ownership, but is experiencing fear in making that commitment?
There's a couple things I'd say. One is, first, be honest with yourself on why you want to go into business for yourself. What are the reasons that are even driving you to do that? Why are you looking to make a change? What's going on in your life? What are you trying to get to? What are your goals? So we use an exercise here at Neighborly as we go through the development process where we walk somebody through that, right? To understand, okay, here's where I am today. Here's where I want to be, right? When most of us are obviously working on a plan towards retirement, but towards financial security, those kind of things. Here's where I want to be. If I don't do anything right now, if I make no change whatsoever, will I get to where I'm trying to get to, right? Whatever that goal is, will I get there? One, will I get there? And two, will I get there in the time frame I want to get there? That's the first thing. And if the answer to that question is no, that I've got to change something, then owning a business could be that change that gets you there, right? We all know that from a wealth building standpoint, owning a small business in the United States is the best way to build wealth, better than real estate, better than any other way. All right, so we know that. So that's one thing I would tell people, is just be honest with yourself on why you want to do it in the first place. Then when it comes to being a small business owner, there's two things I've seen in my career, and I've been doing this for a long time, as you can tell from my gray hair. And I see two things that are common among every successful small business owner, whether they're a franchisee or not. And those and they're two things that are not teachable, right? They're two things. I can teach you how to run a painting business. I can teach you how to run a plumbing business. We can do all that, right? But there's two things that are just innate in people that if they don't have these two things, it makes it a little more difficult, I think. Just because I've seen it be consistent among successful franchisees. And those two character traits, I call them. One is that they are coachable, right? They are willing to learn. They're constantly trying to learn. They're willing to admit, I don't know everything, right? I can't know everything. And there's going to be somebody that knows more than I do about any particular topic. So they're coachable, right? That's one thing. The second thing is that they are positive by nature. They're just a positive person. That is where you build your team, right? If you've got a positive leader, they will build a positive team. They will build a team that is very successful, a team that is very customer focused and customer centric. And so those are the things I see that are necessary to be successful. So be honest with yourself first on why you want to do it, right? And whether you need to make the change. And then two, do you have these two traits that are going to allow you to be successful in most cases, as long as you choose the right brand and something you're passionate about, from a support standpoint, some brand that offers you support you need and that kind of thing.
Perfect. That was a perfect last note. I've known you for quite some time now in various roles and have nothing but the utmost respect for you, as I know others in the industry do as well. So, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to share the value of franchising, and specifically with neighborly brands. And I think, at the end of the day, what the franchise model offers individuals is an opportunity to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And so, that alone should reduce a lot of fear and take some of the risk out of people's minds. So with that said, if anybody is interested in learning more about franchise opportunities or any of the 32 neighborly brands, please feel free to reach out to me at Stacie@fusionfranchising.com. Thanks and have a great day.